My husband, now 39M, and I, now 37F, have been together 12 years, and married for 8 of those years. About 5 years ago, he had a situation with another woman. I have a hard time understanding why and what was going on, and he's unable to provide clarity. First thing, he is bipolar 2 rapid cycling with psychosis. At the time this happened, we had just learned he was hallucinating and had been for a long time. So, we were still working his doc on the meds. After this issues was discovered, they completely altered his meds. We found another psychologist, and my husband has been the most stable we've seen in a very long time. I hate a good friend, we'll call her JM. She was a greater person. My husband and I have 2 kids, and she didn't want any. She loved kids though, and would often exchange Christmas presents with my kids for birthdays and holidays. I met her through my job, and thought she would make a great project manager. However, the office we worked for had a lot of Nepo babies that worked there, and she was often overlooked. It wasn't just me, everyone in my office agreed she deserved better. My husband, also on the tech field, needed to build a team in this new department he would be managing. I suggested he hire her as a project manager. Though she didn't have the title, he hired her as much of work experience qualified her, and we knew her as quick study. I remember my husband letting me know they were hiring her, and he asked me how we should handle this since she is my friend. I told him, don't discuss anything personal and didn't hang out outside of work, we will be fine. An entire year goes by, and my husband is just not in a good place. He's unhappy and almost resentful. He expresses his want/need to go out with people after work to drink and go to shows. The people he was supposedly discussing this with were all in the mid-20s and were single. He would often point out the JM would go too. He would often get work and get messages from his employees, so frequent cell phone use never made me bat an eye. I would occasionally meet up with JM for girls' nights and catch up. She would mention things my husband and I discussed and tell me stories about how my husband was at work. I never thought anything because I figured as colleagues they would discuss certain things. However, the more it happened, the more personal and detailed it was, it made me pause. He told her about his mental health struggles, and his mom didn't even know about them at this point. One evening we went to dinner, and he told me how he took an early lunch so they could explore some shops near their office, and how he checked out the gym. Up until then, he had assured me several times that he didn't speak to JM unless it was work-related. I told him immediately that this made me upset and left dinner early. On the way home, he was upset with me and couldn't figure out how he was wrong. I told him we had very easy stipulations: don't discuss personal matters, and don't hang out outside of work. He insisted this was all they ever did that. I knew better. Someone who has a strict OCD schedule doesn't just suddenly take an early lunch with someone they hardly speak to. Our disagreement continued, and I demanded access to his bank statements and phone. Turns out they pretty much IM'd each other all day long. She talked about how she doesn't know how he could have kids, and how she would never. She would talk to him about everything, but in a completely different light than how she did with me. He agreed kids were hard and would talk about everything with her. Even would poke fun at how dorky I am a dork, but he'd always liked that about me. Now he's making fun of it. I didn't find any nudes, but she would send me him lots of links to clothes she would shop for to wear to different things. One of which was her telling him she was sick and can't make the work Halloween party. She sent a picture of a sexy astronaut costume she said she would have worn, was not appropriate for work, and my husband said I wish you could come. I discovered that he went to lunch with her and some others almost every day, and they'd leave and come back together. When he was texting at night 90% of the time it was her about personal unwork-related stuff that he was so responsive to. And the gym? He was trying to get her to go with him. The last text was her telling him on a Sunday about his new haircut and how soft it was. My husband replied, "Can't wait to see it." There is other stuff that is more related to how he was at home with me. It wasn't great, and he was like a walking zombie at best. Once we worked with therapists and his doctors, they immediately updated the meds he was on, and he says a lot of what he was doing at the time was autonomous and a big blur. He said he remembers talking to her, but didn't realize it was that frequent and never once compared her to me. He said he liked her as a friend and didn't put together that all her attention on him was flirting. I confronted her and told her I thought my husband had a crush on her. She said he'd wanted to go to the gym, but didn't notice. She told me she'd stopped talking to him. She immediately contacted him through a different app to ask if he was okay. It bothered me that I don't know what I don't know. He did lie a lot, and make it sound like he never talked to her. I wonder if he is still lying about it. It hurts that he would lie and manipulate me, and it hurts he never stopped her. There is another side that thinks I'm being overdramatic. It's so confusing.